we do on the tour, just so you know, we point out historic homes, churches, buildings, squares, parks, everything like that. And feel free to ask questions along the way. Let me just tell you a little bit about the tour and how it works. The Historic District of Savannah, the area that we're going to tour, is about 2.5 square miles. This trolley tour takes roughly 8 to 9 miles on the trolley as we zigzag around. Show you as much as we can in 90 minutes. It is a 90-minute tour, roughly, give or take a few minutes. In 1733, at that time more than 100 English colonists arrived here. And when they arrived, they were led by a general in the British Army. His name was General James Oglethorpe. So General Oglethorpe is considered the founder of Savannah and the colony of Georgia. Now on the left-hand side, you're going to see a lot of beautiful trees in our city. We are known for our beautiful trees. The most popular tree that people love are these on the left. These are called southern live oak trees. Southern live oaks. And that is Spanish moss that hangs from those trees. Here on the left-hand side, that mansion there you're looking at, that was the childhood home of Juliette Gordon Low. Right, maybe you've heard of her. She was the founder of the Girl Scouts. And Juliette Gordon Low was born and raised in that house we just passed. Here on the right-hand side is one of our churches. We have a lot of churches here, so get ready for churches. That one is the Independent Presbyterian. Chippewa Square. Now, you may know the movie called Forrest Gump. I'm sure most of you have seen it. And you may know that it was filmed here in Savannah. And right there where that Chippewa Square sign is, that is the spot. That's the spot where Forrest Gump told the world. Remember, he told us that life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Well, it was filmed right there at Chippewa Square. The building here to my right is another church. This one is the First Baptist Church. Old Savannah Theater. The building is over 200 years old. If you stripped away all the neon, the underlying structure was built in 1818. This is not a movie house. This has live performances on stage. And this is the longest running live performing theater in North America. They've been having live performances for over 200 years. This is the Old Savannah Theater. This is stop number 6. Number 2. Now here on the left-hand side, again, Chippewa Square, and in the center, ahead of us in the center, on your left, you'll see that statue that honors our founder. That statue represents General James Oglethorpe. He was our founder here in 1733. Here on the left, Chippewa Square. And here on the right is the Eastman House. You can see the wrought iron fence there. That, of course, wrought iron was very, very popular here in Savannah, Georgia, back in the 1800s. As a matter of fact, we have more wrought iron in our city than just about any other southern city, including Charleston and New Orleans. Now, the wrought iron was used in many, many places, and here is an interesting use of it. If you look to your right, just ahead, look till we get past this Jeep here, and behind the tree on the sidewalk, you'll see a fish that's made of wrought iron. Wrought iron fish right there. Here's the other fish right there. Oh, those two dolphins, actually, they're said to be dolphins. They have been on that house for about 150 years. That is stop 3, and that Sorrell House was built in 1841. If you're here tomorrow, one of the most popular things that tourists do is tour our old mansions. And quite a few are museums. We have a lot of museums in our city. Another museum you could look at tomorrow would be up to the right. That is called the Green Meldrum House. It was built in 1851 for Charles Green. In the Civil War, this was General Sherman's headquarters. I'm talking about General William Sherman, the commander of the Union Army. He captured the city of Savannah with 60,000 soldiers, and that was just before Christmas in 1864. For 6 weeks, they occupied our city. And during that time, General Sherman used that Green Meldrum House as his military headquarters. Up ahead of us, you can see the old armory building that was built in the 1840s. Today, this is the administration building for SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, and that is their gift shop, the shop SCAD. This is Jones Street. Now this is a residential street. This street we were just on, Bull Street, as you can see, you saw, it was mostly all businesses, small businesses. But this is strictly residential. And you'll see some of the houses that people call home here, like the houses on your left. The homes on this street were built in the mid-1800s. And there's one bed and breakfast, again, on the left. This is called the Eliza Thompson House, built in 1847. And that is a very popular bed and breakfast. The other houses here are all privately owned residences. This is where the people actually live. Now here on the left-hand side is the Mercer House. You know about this one, right? You've heard of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, perhaps? Okay, it's a museum, again, opens at 10 a.m. But this is where Jim Williams lived. If you're not familiar with this is Gordon Street. If you're not familiar with the book, it was called Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. It was a true story, and it revolved around a man who lived in the mansion on your left. His name was Jim Williams. And this was back in the 1980s. And Jim Williams was a very wealthy and powerful man here in Savannah. And one night he shot and killed another man right in his mansion, right in his front room here on the first floor. It was his study. The man's name was Danny Hansford. And Jim Williams was charged with first-degree murder. He pled not guilty, claiming self-defense. And then in the early 90s, the book called Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, written by John Berendt, was published. It became an immediate bestseller and was on the New York Times bestseller list for 5 years. And that is open for tours. So if you're familiar with the book, it's a favorite spot for people. Here on the left is Monterey Square. And you can see the monument right there. That's made of marble, by the way. And that monument honors the father of the United States Cavalry. The first cavalry commander in American history is buried there. The building on my right, this home was built in 1910 for the Armstrong family. Today it's called the Armstrong Kessler House. It's called Kessler because that's the name of the current owners. But the home was built for the Armstrongs in 1910. And that's one of our largest private homes in the city. Now here, if you look to your right, you will see the back of the Armstrong house. That was all part of the same house. Now up ahead on the right-hand side, this is the oldest tree in our city. That is a southern live oak tree. The experts estimate that is over 300 years old. And there it is, right across the street on your left. That's the Second African Baptist Church. In 1963, Dr. King was here giving a sermon. He was a guest preacher on a Sunday morning. And he gave a sermon. He said before that, the only person that had heard it was his wife. The restaurant ahead is called Pirate's House. I'm sure most of you have heard of a book called Treasure Island. And maybe some of you have read it. Treasure Island was written by Robert Louis Stevenson. And of course it was a great novel about pirates. It was written right here in this building in 1882. This is where Robert Louis Stevenson wrote his famous novel, Treasure Island. So the restaurant is known as the Pirate's House to honor that. Stop step. The building that Stevenson wrote his novel, Treasure Island, was in this building where the flags are. And that is one of our oldest buildings remaining. You can see on the board, see the year it was built, 1754. This is also Telfair Square, the same family. And in front of us is their mansion. The Telfairs were a very wealthy and powerful family in Georgia in the early 1800s. And Alexander Telfair built this mansion in 1821 for his family. And his sister was Mary. She lived here as well. And when they both passed away, they left no heirs. There was no one to inherit their house. So they left the home as what they called for the public good. So it's been open to the public ever since. And today it serves as an art museum. This is the Museum of Art, the Telfair. The balance of the building was added on when they decided to create the art museum. And the art is all shown in the back part of the building. So let's turn now. We're going to turn right. This will be Jefferson Street. The house on the right, the Yellow House, dates to 1791. It was built for Major John Berrien. Major Berrien served with George Washington at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. The Berrien house there. That is one large mansion. It was built for a man named William Kehoe. It's called the Kehoe House. And William Kehoe manufactured wrought iron. He had a manufacturing plant here in Savannah. And if you look at his staircase, the staircase is made of wrought iron, which he produced. So this was the home of William Kehoe, the man who made much of the wrought iron here. And today this is a beautiful bed and breakfast. The Owens Thomas House, again, it's a museum. And this is the largest of all of the house museums in our city. It was built in 1818. 1818. And the designer, or the architect who designed the house, was a man named William Jay. William Jay is considered to be America's first great architect. So this is one of the original designs by William Gray, and that makes it a very important house. You can see in the front the main entrance. It had the beautiful spiral staircases.